the new generation is looking for that. Instead of getting into those Airbnbs and having that privacy and isolation. And that's why I give those talks on life without walls, is because we've created these walls to think that's what makes us happy. However, happiness comes when you break down those walls.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Design Her Travel podcast. I'm your host, Kim Anderson. As an avid traveler, global nomad, and someone who considers themselves a citizen of the world, I want to say welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. My hope in creating this podcast is to inspire you to take the leap of faith and to design the life of your dreams. For me, that includes connecting with like-minded individuals and creating a community of souls living their best lives out, in, and around the world. Each week, you'll hear stories and conversations from fellow travelers who have figured out how to incorporate travel as a key component in their daily lives. Their stories are beautiful and inspiring, just like you. I can't wait to go on this journey with you. So let's do this. Here we go. Today's episode is brought to you by Acorns Investment. Are you dreaming of exploring exotic destinations, but your budget seems to be holding you back just a little bit? Well, let me introduce you to Acorns, the innovative investing platform that's not just about growing your savings, but also about nurturing your wanderlust. By effortlessly rounding up your everyday purchases to the nearest dollar and investing the spare change, Acorns helps you build a travel fund without even noticing. Think of it as planting a small financial seed that blossoms into unforgettable adventures. Whether it's sipping an espresso in Rome or trekking through the lush rainforest of Costa Rica, Acorns can turn your everyday spending into your dream travel experiences. Sign up now using the link in show notes and get $5 when you make your first investment. Rules and restrictions apply. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Design Her Travel podcast. I am really happy to be with you once again today. And today's guest, I'm very excited in this accommodation series. I have with me Haz Memon. And Haz is the founder of Escape, a co-living brand with properties in Greece and Switzerland. He is also an advocate for remote work and the future of living through his NGO Coliving Hub. He is an international speaker on future of work and life without walls, and is working with several companies and government institutions on the benefits of community living, home office, virtual teams, and tools for remote work. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Kim. It's a pleasure being here, and I'm excited to talk about the new form of living.
Yeah, I am super excited about this. And so where are you currently in the world for our listeners? Where are you?
I am currently in Greece on the island of Crete, which is the southernmost island, the biggest island of Greece. That's where I usually like to spend my winters. It's the mild winters of Europe. And it allows me also to take a step back and work on some of the bigger picture things in the company.
Lovely. That's a beautiful place to spend the winter. And, you have two co-living facilities. You have an NGO based around co-living. And so give us a little bit of your backstory. Like, how did you get to the point where this is what you decided you want to create in the world?
So I come from a tourism background, meaning I had studied tourism in my past, and I worked in tourism organizations, specifically in corporate travel. So I was in business travel. As the industry goes, you do get to travel a lot for work, but you're in and out 3 days at a time, flying across like intercontinental flights. And you never get to immerse in any culture or community because you're in and out of meetings when you're in this business travel. So I immediately had the idea at that time that why is business travel not more sustainable in terms of how can we extend that period of stay to immerse into local culture, to give back to the local community, as well as to experience this place that you fly so many hours to get to, right? So really, it's that tourism background, and the whole idea came from how can I shift tourism in a way that's sustainable?
Lovely. And so what did that look like for you as you transitioned from the corporate world into creating your own entity? So how did you make that transition and land on co-living?
Yeah, after I had worked in corporate travel and it started to slow down, and I was based in the Netherlands for a while, and I realized that after all the trips around the world, it was just not for me to just sit in an office and, just go about the day and go through the routine that everyone does. And this was just a random coincidence. Through my previous company, I also found a post on Facebook which said, if you want to start your own business in tourism, you can join an accelerator program in Portugal, in Lisbon. So it was just a random day. I had gone to watch a movie in a cinema, and I came back, and my girlfriend was like, I'm going to apply for this. And she just did that without my knowledge at the time. And it just happened to be that we got accepted into that accelerator program. It's tourism accelerator program. And we had to go in, of course, with an idea. And the idea at the time was work and travel, which was not co-living. It was the idea of creating like 1 month to 3 months programs for remote workers. But what was great about the accelerator program that we got to learn everything from finance to supply chain to marketing to architecture and design to everything. And at the end of the program, you had to develop a prototype. And our prototype was Switzerland. So my girlfriend is Swiss, hence why Switzerland came about. So we are a partner in life and partner at work. We're co-founders as well. So we said, let's start with Switzerland as our first destination to test out the prototype. And only then we realized that we were the only co-living space in the mountains in the world at the time. And there were only 5 co-living operators in Europe. So it was very, very brand new, the concept. But for us, it was not just co-living in itself that we had to educate and market, but we were in a town, in a small, typical Swiss ski town that no one had ever heard of. So we had to first market the destination and then market co-living. So it was even a bigger challenge. If I say, co-living in Paris, everyone knows what's Paris, right? But co-living in Grimans is not something that anyone can associate the destination with. So it was really a challenge. However, it was just supposed to be a test. The whole location, the property that we took over, was supposed to be a test, but it just turned out to get so much traction that we ended up keeping that till today. It's 7 years, and we started with 1, and now we have 3 properties in Switzerland.
Wow, that is amazing. I love that, how organic it was. You're like, we saw a Facebook ad, basically. You took action. Like, that's the thing. You took action. How many Facebook ads do you see and no one does anything about it, but you took action, and look at that where you are. I think that is amazing. Kudos to you for doing that. That is phenomenal. So tell people, what is a co-living facility and who is it intended for, or who can benefit from a co-living facility?
So co-living in itself is a community living model of where we bring together biologically unrelated people that is facilitated by a community manager who's on site. So a lot of time people confused co-housing with co-living or flat sharing or things like that. However, co-living is a more facilitated, organized community living model. And usually the destination co-living, that's where I'm operating in, is for remote workers, digital nomads, people who are able to take their laptop and work from anywhere they want.
And so when you say it's facilitated, so what goes on in a co-living facility?
Yes. So co-living in itself is an all-inclusive model in most cases. I would say that you don't have to pay extra for the utilities. You don't have to pay extra for laundry services. You don't have to pay extra for cleaning services. This is all included with the accommodation price. So there is no extra costs per se. So it's an all-inclusive model, except for the cooking catering part. There's no catering service. Again, what we always say, co-living is like a home. It's a home that you live with other people. So you treat it like a home rather than a hotel. So there is a level of service, but it's not a hotel service that you have someone at a reception who's answering your calls or your questions all the time. But the community manager, the facilitation is there to help create a community events. So one thing that we do at our spaces is we organize a professional event once a week that compromises of anything the community wants to learn and share with each other. We've had talks on investment in cryptocurrencies. We've had talks on influential marketing strategies. We've had talks on even like how to pack effectively or travel hacks as well. So it's a way to learn from each other, but it's also a way to spark each other's professional side of things. And because of that, we've also had businesses come out of it and partnership come out of it as well with people. So that's one of the events that we organize. We also do a social event, whether that has to do with communal cooking, like a cultural night of some sort, or whether it is going on an excursion together. Just creating that bond within the community itself is very important for us. So these are the two events that are organized on the weekly basis. But then we also encourage all the guests to also take initiatives and also organize their own events. Again, it is facilitated in that aspect, but at the same time, there's a lot of empowering that's important for us.
That's beautiful. And so the distinction between a co-living facility and like a hostel, for example, would be the common denominator of business and organized events and intentional creation of community. Am I understanding that correctly? Is that kind of the primary difference between co-living and a hostel?
Yes, and there are community guidelines within the space itself. So again, we do say that this is a professional space that we're in. So we ask that people are not loud after 11 p.m., for example. It's not the party hostel vibe, as well as what we say is to respect each other, clean up after each other. Things like that are just some community guidelines that we've put in place so that everyone has an equal experience at the space.
I love that it provides an intentional space for people who are professionals traveling in the world. You know, there's nothing worse than finding an accommodation and being surrounded by people who are just totally on holiday and raging it up all night, and you're trying to sit there and do your work. So I love that these spaces have opened in the world. You have spoken on stages and are a thought leader in the world of community living and the evolution of community living. And so over the years, I would imagine that co-living has changed from what it was to kind of what it is now. And what are some of the ways that you see co-living transforming as we move forward? How do you see its importance fitting in with the age that we're currently living in?
I think that's a very good point you brought up, because prior to the pandemic, the whole idea of co-living or the whole idea of remote working was not popular, right? And we've written the first Wikipedia page on co-living. We've done a lot of the articles on co-living. However, there was a lot of skepticism around it. However, the pandemic made people understand the loneliness part of working from home or working remotely, what that brings. And that's what brought co-living back into the limelight of, hey, that is what I can do if I want to feel part of a community, right? That's what has changed a lot, the perspective in itself of what co-living is. A second, it has grown very much from when we started to 5 co-living operators in Europe, and now over 250 in Europe and
Wow.
over to 450 across the world. So it has shifted quite a lot, and we see this industry growing and growing and growing. And that's because the new generation is looking for that. Instead of getting into those Airbnbs and having that privacy and isolation, and that's why I give those talks on life without walls, is because we've created these walls to think that's what makes us happy. However, happiness comes when you break down those walls. That's the whole story of co-living and what I'm trying to shift.
Oh, I love that happiness comes when you break down those walls, because I feel like you're completely right in the fact that a lot of our limitations in life are self-imposed, regardless of, no matter what that limitation is, it's self-imposed. And we've kind of been living in a way where we just do what the people before us have done. And I love the gift that the pandemic gave of recognition that we need people in our lives and there are other ways to live. And it really opened up the freedom for people to be intentional about creating the type of life that they desire and that makes them happy, and connect with others that sort of reflect that back to them. So I think it's great. And I think it's beautiful that you have been in this movement since its beginning. And so I love that, you really have your finger on the pulse of what's going on. And so that is an amazing expansion of co-living facilities around the world. And so if someone wanted to tap into the co-living world, is there a membership? Is there one central hub? Tell us a little bit about the co-living hub. Maybe.
Yes. So Co-living Hub is an organization that I created in 2018, and that is an association. It's a nonprofit association, and that's one way that I really wanted to give back to the community too, is by helping others start this business, start a co-living business. It's a membership platform where everyone can sign up and get all the information on how to start your own co-living space, how to grow it, as well as be part of a community of other founders. So you can get to talk to others that, hey, I'm not alone in this problem or challenges that co-living comes with. So with Co-living Hub, we do webinars every month where we invite speakers on architecture and design, on community management, on operations, on marketing strategies, sales strategies, all different sort of things. So this is a lovely way to also learn every month on different topics. And then we host events, physical events. We do co-living conferences. We've done retreats, which are for anyone who wants to start a co-living space. So this is a physical retreat that happens at a co-living space, as we are trying to also encourage people to experience co-living if you want to start a co-living, right? So hence why the next retreat that's coming up, which is the co-living gathering happening in Gran Canaria in Spain, is just about networking, because we saw that a lot of not just the new, but even the older co-living operators just are so willing to connect. And I think this industry itself is much more about collaboration over competition. So we want to be host to that, right? And that's what the next event is about.
I love that collaboration over competition. I think that is the dawning of the new age, right? We all realize that's another way that we're recognizing we need people. Let's support and lift one another up. I think it's beautiful. Co-living Hub is a community of people that help others who are interested in creating their own co-living facilities around the world. It's almost like a co-living creation mastermind. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, exactly. So it's a place where you not only connect with the community of other co-living founders, but it's also where you can really nitpick the topics that you want to learn about. And that's what the platform is all about.
That is so beautiful. We've talked about Co-Living Hub, which I think is really great because we learn so much faster when we can be surrounded by people that are doing the same thing or that have the similar interest. We can bounce ideas off. So I think that is such a beautiful gift to give to the community. I would like to talk a little bit about your particular co-living facilities, Escape. So you have them in Switzerland and in Crete. So what does day-to-day life look like and what are the facilities like for your locations?
Yes, so our sort of niche that we wanted to grow into is more the premium co-living. So we do take luxury properties and make it affordable. Again, the whole idea of co-living is also making it affordable because some of these properties, it just wouldn't be, people individually wouldn't be able to afford it. But when we are able to convert these properties into co-living model, it makes it easily affordable because, for example, in Greece, we have these luxury villas with pools, with a veranda, with outdoor dining, with barbecue areas. So all these common spaces become accessible at a price of like $1,200, $1,300, right? A month. So
Yeah.
this wouldn't be possible if you are just individually trying to get a luxury villa. So that's the first thing here that we want. We are going into that segment of more these luxury accommodations in Switzerland as well. We are 2 minutes away from the ski station. These are brand new Swiss chalets, very typical pine tree houses, and they're beautiful, right? So this is the whole idea. We not only want to create space that's all about community living, but also that's inspiring. So a lot of our spaces they all open up to this beautiful horizon of like the mountains in Switzerland and the beach and the sea here in Greece. So it's kind of like, okay, let's take you out of your normal routine situation and put you in a place where you're inspired to work and be productive as well. So that's the spaces that we're creating. We have 2 properties in Greece and 3 properties in Switzerland. And we're also currently looking at expanding in both locations as well.
Lovely. And as we were speaking about before we hit record, your website is wonderful and your locations just look fantastic. I was scrolling through each picture. I was like, oh, I would totally stay here. This would be amazing to have this location and wake up to this every day. And I love that you're stepping into the more luxurious accommodation because let's face it, like people are earning a lot of money in the world. Yes, there are people that are suffering, but there is a lot of money in the world and people want to stay in places that are nice, inspiring, and you're surrounded also by others who are inspired every day. And that just creates an environment for expansion. And so I would imagine that getting all of these people together that are business owners or remote workers and in a beautiful space, that there might be a lot of businesses created from those communities as well. Do you have that experience happening?
Yes, that's exactly not just our experience, but our intention. We want to inspire people. We want to connect people. And the Spaces has created several businesses, which we are very proud of and feel rewarded to see that happening. And not just businesses, but also lifelong friendships as well. That it's not that, hey, you're just coming to our spaces and that's where your journey ends. This is just the beginning of that journey, right? You meet your friends from all over the world, and then they get to meet in other parts of the world. And that's why we also have an alumni network for everyone who has stayed with us, because we believe that the Escape is so much more than just our spaces. It's about the community we are trying to create, and the community goes beyond just the space.
That's so beautiful. And when it comes to guests that you have, is there sort of a typical age range of people or does it cover the gauntlet? What's your experience?
Our average age is about 35 years old. We do get people in their late 50s. We get people in their early 20s, but I would say average is about 35. In terms of profession, that's one thing that has shifted a little bit after COVID. Before COVID, we had a lot of people in the marketing fields or in the software engineering fields, which we do see having a lot of remote work options. Whereas now we do see psychologists, we've had doctors, we've had authors, we've had professors, and we've had, of course, things like people in doing analysis of any sort, data analysis and things like that as well. So we're seeing professions shift, and it's COVID that had allowed these professions to shift to remote work. So I think that's what's very interesting to see as well. We do see also more and more growth in North America side of things as well, that we earlier on, we were getting mostly European demographics, I would say. But now I would say it's almost 50-50 that we have North American clients versus European clients.
Wow, that's quite a shift in 7 years. So when it comes to booking a stay, is there a minimum stay, a maximum stay?
Yes, there is a minimum stay of 1 week and there's no maximum stay. But what we do recommend is staying at least a month, because what we have seen in the past, that the way to really integrate into the community and to experience local culture, you need about 4 weeks time. Because the first week is always just settling down, getting to know the people, getting to know your surroundings. As you've traveled a lot, you know that. And it's really this from the second week onwards that you start to explore all those connections, all those different spaces and places as well. So we do recommend staying a month, and that's actually also our average stay is 1 month.
Oh, beautiful. And for those who possibly haven't experienced a co-living facility, or sort of the whole ideology around creating intentional communities around a common goal, what would you like for them to know? What is something that maybe you hear is a misunderstanding, or just something that you think is important for them to understand?
I think oftentimes people mix co-living with the idea of flat share or a roommate type of model. And it is not. Again, the people you attract in co-living are adults. They have traveled a lot. They're very open-minded. They come from different cultures. They want to contribute to your space and to the people that are there. So allowing them to do that is the first step, is creating these community guidelines, which I mentioned above as well, is a great way to kind of make sure that experience is similar across the board, because you do get people who are extroverted. You do get people who are introverted. You get people who are louder, who are quieter. So you need to be able to manage the dynamics. And that's why the role of the community manager on site becomes very important, because it's not just doing those events, but it's also managing the dynamics of the people.
That's great. And that leads me into, if someone were interested in creating their own co-living facility, what are some of the considerations when someone's starting out? Like, what are the top 3 things that they should consider for creating their own co-living facility?
I think there are 2 sides of it. One is more you as a person need to be open that your life is going to become way more social. Like 10x that or 100x that, you're going to be meeting so many people all the time. And no matter how much you try to keep up, you would not keep up with everyone. We've had over 700 guests so far. I cannot remember everyone's name. But so that's one thing. You do get involved a lot in terms of the social aspects. That's one thing to be aware of, that this is a social business, this is a people's business, and it's a hospitality business at the end of the day as well. So you have to be open to the thought of getting into hospitality if that's a thing for you, because that includes sometimes working on weekend as your bookings and check-ins and things like that never stops. So think of that as the first thing. And then on the second hand side is the property in itself. You have to ask yourself the question, am I going to lease properties? Am I going to own properties? What property in itself is designed for co-living, and what properties can I repurpose for co-living as well? And what is the minimum number of rooms I need to create to make it a profitable business, but at the same time create a community too? So these are some basic questions I would say that you can get into. But yeah, I would say join Co-Living Hub if you want to find out a lot more, because there is a lot more. Because co-living, I would say very honestly, isn't for everyone. And I'm the first person to say that. And I don't want to sugarcoat that, because you have to be aware that this is a social business and you are getting into something that's going to be very much a part of your life. So be aware of that.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction. Is it is a social business. The whole point is to bring people, so you will be surrounded continuously. And something we touched base on beforehand as well is, with the expansion of co-living facilities around the world, many of those are, I think people are starting to create them in rural, or as you mentioned, when you opened yours in Switzerland, it was a destination people hadn't heard of. So we're in a digital age. So connections and Wi-Fi and transportation, those parts are a big portion of necessity for your business. Yes?
Yes, infrastructure is something that we take very seriously whenever we are trying to grow into new destinations and properties as well. We look at the accessibility in terms of like how far is it from the airports, how accessible it is by public transportation or through car rental services. At the same time, is it a walkable area? Can you go and do groceries yourself? Do you need a car for these kind of things? We look at the infrastructure of the house in itself. Again, we work with modern properties, so we can minimize our maintenance costs, let's say. At the same time, you also need to think about internet, which is the biggest driver when it comes to remote work. So if you are hosting these kind of people, you need to make sure it is as stable as possible. Just like we were talking about earlier, we do have a Starlink as a backup in Greece, because Greece is made up of thousands of islands and not every island is still connected with fiber optics. So thankfully, we have Starlink that can save our lives and make this possible, because again, there's so many beautiful properties around the world that are underutilized. And that's what I want to change, because we've talked a lot about the demand side, right? Which is, people want to overcome the loneliness and they want a community. But there is a huge supply side problem as well, that there are properties which are underused for 9 months a year. They just have a season, which is their high season, whether it's summer in Greece, whether it's winter in Switzerland. But outside of that, they are just empty. And we wanted to change that.
I love that. And it brings the community in the off season. So it allows the community to be a thriving location year round, as opposed to just the 3 months of the high season or whatever. So I think that's great. It also, I think, is brilliant because it continues to allow people to expand around the globe and not just congregate in certain areas. So that sounds like a win-win. I think all of that information is so useful. I see the world changing at rapid rates, and the way people are intentionally creating communities around the world is becoming more and more important. We're choosing where we want to live. We're choosing who we live with, and we are creating our families and changing our dynamics. And so I think it's beautiful that you have stepped into this world where you're giving people a safe and open place to live. And it's a great gift to the world.
Thank you. Thank you for listening in. First thing, and I'm happy to share that, because as you can hear from me, I'm very passionate about it. Living and breathing co-living.
So great. And so the lightning round is 4 quick questions. And the first one is, what is a travel tip or an inside scoop for your current location in Crete?
The travel tip, I would say, it's the mildest winter that you can experience in Europe. So it's a perfect escape. No pun intended there. But it's also where you can experience the island like no other, because that's where there's no crowds on any of the beaches. There's all the locals who are available to give you more time. You can dive deeper into things like how do they make olive oil or honey on this island and things like that, which I feel like are often missed out on when you are experiencing something, in the high season.
That's beautiful. And I could be mixing the places up, but doesn't Crete have like one of the oldest trees on the planet or something?
Yes.
Yeah, olive tree.
Yes.
That alone is worth taking a trip. And the second question is, what is a book that has inspired you in life?
I think really at the beginning, and to be honest, you talk to anyone who's doing this or living this lifestyle of working from anywhere would tell you Tim Ferriss, 4 hour work week. And that's true. To be honest, was the same thing here. It's just about living life of freedom in terms of where you want to live, how you want to live, and how much you want to work on it. So I would still say.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people in the world that book has influenced. I mean, he created a movement that I don't even know he could grasp when he wrote that book. It's pretty phenomenal. And the third question is, what is something that you can't live without and you always take with you?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I would say my laptop stand. So that's something that you never know in different spaces that you go in and how high the table is that you're going to be working from. So I always have this adjustable laptop stand. I can always lift and reduce the height of.
That's a good answer, actually. I'm surprised no one has said that before because, we're all in Zoom calls and you get the wrong angle sometimes.
Because you need to have an eye level work situation. Otherwise, it's just like you're crouched the whole day, and that's not fun.
Yeah, no, that is not fun. And so the last question is, what is on the top of your bucket list for destinations or adventures?
The Nordics, I would say. One of my dreams, and this is very funny because I was just recently talking to someone about co-living in Iceland, for example, like having something around the Northern Lights and things like that, because I feel these destinations are really underrated and not explored enough. The nature there is so rich, let's say, that I feel like that's something that I would love to still explore. That's still one of the last things I think left on my bucket list.
Ah, lovely. And I love that you've explored most of your bucket list. That's brilliant. And where can people find you and connect with you online?
Oh, several ways. I would say that ideally, if you want to connect with me directly, it will be LinkedIn that you can get in touch with me on. And otherwise, you can contact me at haz@ourescape.co. That's my personal email as well, work email. So you can always get in touch with me on that. Otherwise, just check out rscape.co and check out colivinghub.co. These are both of my businesses, and hopefully I can find everyone on the other side.
Yes, well, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom and around co-living. And thank you for being brave enough to take action on that dream, that Facebook ad that was placed in front of you. Thank you for being brave enough to live your way into this beautiful life and sharing it with all of us.
Thank you, Kim. This has been wonderful, and I'm happy that I got to share my story.
Yes, and I'm happy to hear it, and happy travels. I enjoyed that conversation so much. I loved learning about the differences between a co-living facility, a hostel. I love learning about and witnessing the ways that we as humans are choosing to create intentional communities around the world and to really find our tribe and to design our lives to incorporate all of the things that are important to us. And through the pandemic and through our modern age, we have realized the importance of community. And so I love what Haz and his partner are doing in the world. And here are the key takeaways. Number one, co-living is a community living model where biologically unrelated people share a living space. That space is managed and organized by an on-site community manager. Number two, the distinction between a co-living facility and a hostel is the common denominator of business and organized events centered around the intentional creation of community. Number three, co-living facilities not only want to create space that's all about community living, but also that's inspiring. Being surrounded by beautiful spaces and fellow entrepreneurs creates an inspiring atmosphere where lifelong friendships and businesses are born. Number four, Co-living facilities take you out of your normal routine situation and put you in a place where you are inspired to work and be productive. Number 5, in life, we've created these walls to think that that's what makes us happy. However, happiness comes when you break down those walls, which is the whole mission of co-living. The quote I would like to leave you with today is from Robin Sharma. And Robin said, "Investing in yourself is the best investment you will ever make. It will not only improve your life, it will improve the lives of all those around you." I think that beautifully sums up the creation that has put into the world with Escape and Co-Living Hub. He is creating intentional communities for people that have a desire to live their best lives, to design a life that is uniquely theirs and that provides community and joy and inspiration for living even better lives than maybe we even realized was imaginable. Thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time. Thank you so much for showing up and listening to this episode. I know that there are so many things in life that you could be doing right now, and so it means a lot to me that you're here. There are so many more episodes coming your way. So if you enjoyed the show, please take a moment to review and follow us on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And if you know someone who might like to hear it, please share. Those little acts of kindness mean a lot and help more than you know. I appreciate your time and getting the opportunity to share this moment. I'd love to hear more from you. I'd love to connect, so reach out on social. You can find me on Instagram at Seafaring Wanderer. That's SeafaringWanderer. And then you can join our Facebook group at Design Her Travel Podcast. I would love to connect, hear more from you. Let me know what you'd like to hear more of, places you'd like to hear about, and things you'd like to know how to do when designing your life. So thank you, everyone, and I'll be back soon.